Hello, this is a St. Stephen Spotlight, and today we are with Jane Koch. Jane, you are a longtime member of St. Stephen that I bet everybody here already knows everything about, but you can still tell us how you've been lately. How have you been doing?
I've been doing very well. I've been staying safe, mostly at home, cautious when I do go out, wear a mask, do those kinds of things, and um, and so I'm doing well.
Excellent. What challenge have you faced in the last few weeks? Any challenges that have been particularly hard?
The hardest thing is my feeling useless. I'm not of help to other people.
Hmm.
I'm taking care of me, um, but I don't feel like I'm helping as I should.
So you probably aren't the only person who feels that way. I'm sure other people have felt that. Um, what what uh, what relief have you found in that feeling? Have you found anything you can do that helps you get your mind off of feeling useless, or any advice you have for us?
Well, I pick up the phone and I call people. I call people either from church or friends of mine. I have friends who are spread all over the United States. Call them, call my family, call sisters and my PEO chapter, and just see how everyone's doing and just talk with them.
PEO is, what does that stand for again?
It's a philanthropic education organization. We give scholarships for women.
And it's a teachers organization.
Not really. No. It's a women's organization, but it's a lot of teachers belong, but it's not a teachers
Okay.
organization.
Okay, so you mentioned that you have been in touch with people from St. Stephen. Who can you update us on anybody or tell us how anybody else is doing?
Well, I've talked with Joanne Schoonover several times, and she seems to be doing really well. Um, I've talked with Sandy Davis several times, and I think she's in process of getting some home improvement things done, and she's doing well, and also still helping with her grandchildren, but doing well. Bob
Carefully.
and Emily Hoff.
I hope she's helping with her grandchildren carefully.
Yes, 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 yes. I think she learned from trying to play the game with the children. Don't we all though? Yeah.
So, and then you said the Hoffs. You said that you.
The Hoffs, I haven't talked to them for a while, but I believe that they are doing well.
I think everybody is trying to do the best they can. So when I started out, I said that you had been around St. Stephen for a while. When did you become a member of St. Stephen? Do you remember this?
I was trying to figure this out, and I believe it was in the early 90s. It's been at least 25 years.
So
I've lived in my home for 35 years, so it's been at least time just gets away from me. Things that are 20 years ago, I think were 10.
yeah, tell me about it. Time really gets away from me when every day is sort of the same stuck inside feeling, maybe like we're not doing as much as we could be doing kind of feeling. We'll say, does 1994 count as early?
That's what I put down. I thought that I joined the church. It was just before Pastor John Luoma, he was being called. I came this summer and Pastor was being called and Fran Dieter was president of council. I remember the day I came, and Fran and I have had a lot of wonderful experiences along the way, but it was that summer.
Okay. So just to put it as still early 90s, but as late as possible to make you as young as possible, I said 1994, but we have
Well,
compensation here.
hey, take off a year or two. It's okay with me.
Okay. So in that time, which that's still quite a long time to be around St. Stephen and get to know people, in that time, what have you experienced at St. Stephen that you feel like is a strength or something that you're proud of St. Stephen for? What do you think we do well here?
I always have felt it's a feeling of community there, acceptance, belonging, um, a place where you can serve and I guess where you can be served. I've been helped many, many times at St. Stephen.
So maybe, and leave it to me to keep tying it back into something you said earlier and keep holding this over your head. But maybe, however you're feeling right now, it's good to remember that we can help others and other people can help us, and we don't always have to be the one. I have to hear this lesson myself, that we don't always have to be the one who has to be useful. I have to hear that myself sometimes. So,
I would agree.
and so maybe part of being in community, which I agree, I think that's a strength of St. Stephen, is having that be a two-way street and knowing people can also call you and tell you that we miss you too. So one of the questions I have on the sheet that I sent you is about what you miss about worshiping at St. Stephen. Is there anything in particular that since we haven't been able to get together has been harder to think about?
Well, it goes back to the community aspect, seeing people being there. And I must say that I truly miss Holy Communion, which is a part of that community process.
Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about, and I've tried to be in conversation with people from St. Stephen to try to talk about how when we did celebrate communion together, it was beautiful enough that hopefully the memory and the presence of Christ in it is enough to try to hold us over. And I know someday we're going to meet together again. It's going to happen.
It will.
So, what hopes or things do you hope to see us do when we are able to get back together? What, instead of just being about all the bad stuff, I also wanted to ask some stuff about what are you hopeful for that when we get back together, you're excited to see us do together?
Well, worship together, of course, safely, have social distancing, but yet have social closeness. And I believe you can have both.
So physically, maybe we follow the rules because the virus is a physical thing, but we can see each other, and then emotionally, we can still kind of be supportive since we're somewhat near each other.
Agree.
So one of the last couple of questions I had on the questionnaire is about you. I know that you said that you've talked to Joanne, and you said that you've talked to Sandy, Joanne Schoonover, Sandy Davis, and the Hoffs, and we can continue to pray for the three of them, three of those households. How can we pray for you?
And you know what? I forgot the Johnsons.
Oh, okay. So
The Johnsons have called me, and okay, here's another one. Of course, I forgot somebody else. I stop by the Lamantius house at least once a week because I walk and ring their doorbell and talk with them. So they're all doing well.
Joanne Schoonover, Sandy Davis, the Hoffs, that's Bob and Emily. You'd mentioned the Johnsons, that's Tim, Amy, Peyton, and Autumn. And then the Lamantias.
You gonna remember all those?
Good luck, right? It's Michael, Danya, Emma, Jacob, and Annalise. And these are all people who, part of the reason why I'm doing this with you is to try to keep community somehow. And that's why we're mentioning these names and visiting with you, because we can pray for each other, and that's a way to try to stay in community. I know it's not the same, but how we can pray for all those households. Is there a way that we can pray for you?
Yes, you can. I've come to the conclusion that I need to venture out, but venture out safely. I firmly will be wearing a mask. And I'm going to say this, the reason I wear a mask is not just for me. I wear a mask because I respect other people as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds me to give them distance, to respect what they're looking for in the store, that I don't have to go that quickly or whatever. But to get out safely and be in places and do things in measured amounts.
Okay, so the confidence to go out, but the security of knowing that you're safe when you go out.
And that I'm keeping others safe at the same time.
Okay, and I think that prayer is great for you, and I think that's a prayer we can all think of for ourselves. We're thinking about how to someday worship together again, and that's all stuff we need to be prayerful and mindful of each other about. So I was always afraid in doing these spotlights that in spending time with people, I would ask too many heavy questions or questions that are like, oh no, and people are already kind of anxious. So I always wanted to try to go out on the highest note possible. We talked just prior to recording this, and you said that punchlines and jokes are not really your strong suit. So you said that you might have a different way of helping us go out on a strong note, some way to think positively. What books would you recommend to us?
I like reading from historians, and the current book I'm reading is David McCullough's The Pioneers.
Okay.
Those of you who have been in Ohio or lived in Ohio for a long time, I would suggest that you read it. You know, it's the Northwest Ordinance. It's coming into where Ohio was basically part of the original Northwest Ordinance after the Revolutionary War. And it talks about the settlement of Marietta. And I just wondered if anybody would know, which I did not know till I've read most of the book, how the city of Gallipolis got their name. It's interesting.
I don't think I know that, although there's reasons why I should, but I don't know that. I think David McCullough, he's written a lot of books. They're almost all historical, and I think he has one about the Brooklyn Bridge that's actually one I'd like to read one of these days. I read one that I think was called 1776 or something.
Yes.
So he's got a number of books, and they're pretty readable, even though they're history. They aren't, let's say they're not so academic that you can't sit through it. So it's a good recommendation. Anybody could read this.
That's right. And he has it divided into the fact where you can read into certain chapters, and if you need to let it go, you can come right back into it. It's really well done.
So you've talked about some of the things that were weighing on your mind, and as you've been through all the last few weeks, and some things that we can pray for you going forward. But you've also sort of given us a book to go, hopefully into the future, to go get our hands on, and to try to keep living, hopefully. Someday we are all going to gather together again and share communion together again. And when we do, make sure you say hello to Jane and all those other families and households we've been praying for. Anything else, Jane? Any last things?
Just may the peace of Christ be with you all.
All right.